Coming to you live from San Antonio, Texas. This is a Drinking Buddies podcast. I'm Quentin.
And I'm Alex.
And welcome to our show.
On this podcast, you're going to hear about all things sports. Specifically, we're going to talk about basketball. We're going to talk about football. We'll talk about baseball and
the philosophy of the game. Welcome to another edition of Drinking Buddies podcast. In this episode, we are going to talk about the aftermath of the 2024 NBA draft. So this episode is called DRAFTermath. My name is Quentin.
And I'm Alex.
And welcome to our show. This draft was absolutely insane.
Insane.
It was really hard to predict going in, but even more than that, what transpired, especially with the Spurs, was unpredictable.
Well, actually, Quentin, I predicted that they would probably give up one of their picks because that's what the Spurs do. That's kind of the Spurs way. They don't like to pick two guys. I mean, that one draft where they picked three guys, I mean, that was crazy. I just had a feeling they would trade one of their picks, but I don't know. I'm kind of with the public on this one. These guys are 11 and 12 right now.
So let's get into the conversation now with the pros and cons of the draft.
Let's do it.
So let's talk about the pros and cons of this draft, starting with Stephon Castle at 4. The pro is he was the absolute perfect pick at 4.
Outstanding selection.
100%. I think he's going to fit in great with the culture. I think he's going to love pop. He's going to love playing for Wemby, obviously.
He was already putting shots up at the gym yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, he's the prototypical Spur. Now, the only con with Castle is where does he play? Does he play at the 1, the 2, the 3? What do you think?
I think he's open to playing at the 1. I think that's where his heart is. He wants to be the 1. He's 6'5.5" without shoes on. He's over 6'6" with shoes on. That's going to give him an edge over a bunch of point guards.
Right.
And he knows how to play the game. He is a defensive beast. He's going to make us exponentially better. And as we talk about things later on in the draft,
right.
Would you rather have a defensive-minded point guard that takes less pressure off of Wemby, or do you want somebody who can score in bunches but can't play defense worth a lick? I don't want that guy.
I think you're alluding to Trae Young there.
I was actually alluding to number 8.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. So yeah. The only con I see with Castle is what you said about him playing the point. And I wouldn't mind him playing the point. My only thing is, if he does play the point, he's got to learn how to be a better facilitator because he's not a playmaker.
That's the truth. It is.
But he's a point of attack defender like no one else in this draft. He's just maybe other than Ryan Dunn. He's a fantastic defender. Now, speaking to the second pro and con, talking about the 8th pick with Rob Dillingham, the pro I see is having traded away that pick to Minnesota and getting a 2030 pick swap and a 2031 unprotected first. The pro is we have that extra draft capital to possibly trade. And intel has come in about De'Aaron Fox potentially being available. That is someone I would love the Spurs to get.
Unfortunately, we don't have any intel on the 11 or 12-year-old that's going to come out in that draft.
Right. 2031.
Right. He at a middle school near you.
Right.
I mean, it's
exactly.
crazy. He's a 6th grader. What is going on? Look, everybody's giving the Spurs grief about why didn't you take Dillingham? He was perfect at 8. Was he really, folks?
Yeah.
In some mock drafts, he was like 13th, 14th, 15th.
Right.
I don't think so. Yes, he's a lightning bug when it comes to attacking the basket. As far as
he can also shoot lights out.
He can. He's 6'1", and he is a defensive liability.
He's a $168 too.
You want to put that kind of pressure on Wembanyama. Wouldn't you rather have a point guard that can actually play give a solid contribution to defense versus somebody that's going to be like, oh God, what's going to happen now?
Right.
I don't want that guy. And look, I like Dillingham. I thought it was a quality pick at 8, but I'm glad that they made this move because, see, here's the thing folks aren't thinking about, Quentin, and keep me honest and keep me accurate with this. In 2030, 2031, Gobert and Towns are both going to be on the backside of 30 years old.
Right.
And
Ant-Man's going to be a free agent
he's going to be able to be an unrestricted free
in
agent.
2030, I believe.
If they start going, guess what's going to happen? He's going to want to walk, maybe go to LA, maybe go to one of these tropical destinations that guys go to, and you are going to have 2 potential top 5 picks, and you're going to be able to keep surrounding Wemby with talent. The mistake the Spurs made back in Timmy's day is they were never trading to get picks, to get guys to bolster the players around Tim.
Right.
I mean,
So
the only guy we had that did that was Kawhi, and that was it. I mean, really think about it. Go in the past and think about that. Other than your other 2 from the big 3, you know, your Tony and your Manu, that's all you had. You didn't really have a lot of support for him. So they're learning from their mistakes. Would you agree with that?
I would. I've lost track of what you said because you're very wordy. But
Not me. Get out of here.
yeah, so
I've never heard that before.
Trying to get into word edgewise.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. There's nothing more I can really add to that. The only thing I would say is the only con I anticipate having traded the 8th pick is what if Rob Dillingham becomes an all-star, right? Because
Yes.
then we give up the 8th pick and Rob Dillingham to an already stacked Minnesota team who has one of the faces of the league in Anthony Edwards.
But I think Dillingham helps them more now than he would help the Spurs now.
I agree.
Because they don't need him to be 18 points a game, 5 assists a game. They don't need that from him. And they can hide his defensive deficiencies because they've got 2 bigs in
Gobert and
Towns and
Towns.
Gobert. So
Right.
they don't need that. But here's the thing, Quentin, that we need to talk about. The Spurs saved $7 million on the cap right now.
Right.
That they can go out and chase.
No, I agree. I agree with the move that they made. I think that's a really good move. I think people are overreacting because they're like,
why didn't we get Dillingham?
and why did we trade for a pick?
Lightning.
Like you said, why do we trade for someone who's right now in middle school, right? But I think ultimately it is going to pay off unless Dilly becomes an all-star. But he's such a hit or a miss. He's either going to be really, really good or he's going to be Johnny Flynn 2.0.
On camera, I'll bet you $100 he does not become an all-star.
Oh,
Take
no.
that action.
I don't want to take that action because I agree. I don't think he's going to become an all-star. But that's the thing. All right, moving on to the next pro. The pro of drafting Juan Nunez. We drafted Johnny Furphy, and then we traded him immediately to the Pacers for Juan Nunez.
I went like this.
Yeah.
Why?
Juan Nunez is a really shifty ball handler, playmaker, can shoot threes, but he's a great draft and stash prospect. So that's the pro of drafting him.
Because you don't have to sign him a big contract, and you don't have to worry about him counting against your team as far as your slots are.
Right, and he could come in and ultimately become like a Bena Udre for us. But when it comes to the con, we had to give up Johnny Furphy to do that. And I wasn't really high on Johnny Furphy.
Nor I.
But at
as we talked during
35?
the draft, we got him for, he was supposed to go 17,
Or 18, yeah.
And he went 35th.
Right.
I mean, that was a value pick.
And we immediately shipped him off
Yeah,
to
and
Indiana.
for him and Cash, for you know, the point guard from Spain and Cash. How much cash are we talking, guys? $250,000, $500,000? Was it enough money to be worthwhile? I don't think so. I would have rather stayed with Furphy and see what he could do. He was a wing. We need a wing.
And we need shooting.
Yes.
And he's a shooter.
So to me, that was kind of I'd give the Spurs a C+ for that.
That's fair. That's a
Now, we have one more guy to talk about.
The pro of drafting Harrison Ingram, who
Harrison Ingram.
I really like Harrison Ingram.
That sounds like a basketball name. Harrison Ingram.
It really does.
Harrison Ford's an actor.
Number
Harrison
55.
55.
Harrison
Ingram. I'm digging it.
Yeah. So I really like that pick. Yeah, Harrison Ingram, great pick. He's basically Malik Rose with a jump shot, and he's a high motor, high energy, works really hard kind of guy. Defensively pretty solid. Now the only con is he's pretty much the same player as CD Sissoko.
Yes.
So what does that mean for CD in terms of his playing minutes or his development?
Well, here's the thing. You know they're going to stash him. They're going to let him play in the GG League.
Right.
Get some momentum, get some time, get some points, and some reps in. But I could definitely see him being part of a bum rush crew too for the Spurs.
Right.
So I think it was a great pick. I thought it was a very well-timed pick where he was selected at 48. I thought they did well there. Like I said, I don't have a problem trading 8, and I love the pick at 4. I really have heartburn over the flip-flop to go and get Dunfurfy and pick up Nunez. That was a head-scratcher to me because the guy we got at 35 was a primo pick. You had some teams that...
Not a primo pick, not Josh Primo pick, but it was a solid
Ooh, yeah. We don't want another flasher, folks.
Oh, well, definitely not. So, I do think with Ingram and Nunez, they can eventually become role player guys off the bench, just like CD. I think CD has a legit shot to be like a Boris Diaw type of player for us. So I think that we made some pretty good points. Let's move on to our next segment.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, guys, now that we're done with our first segment, which was, of course, pros and cons, we're going to talk about winners and losers. And Quentin, I know you're very opinionated about this, so I'm going to leave you with the dice to tell us what you think.
I think the Utah Jazz, by far, were the biggest winners of this draft.
For sure.
Because they not only get Cody Williams at 10, who I think is going to pan out. I really like Cody Williams.
And we both thought he could have been the 8th pick with the Spurs.
I thought he would have been a good pick at 8. I wouldn't have been upset but they had other plans at 8. But regardless, 10 is a good spot for Cody Williams. And then they go and get Isaiah Collier at 29.
That's sick, because this guy was argued to be the first pick in the draft at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
So, I thought it was a quality pick at 29.
For sure. And then they go and get Filipowski.
Yep.
In the second round.
And he was supposed to be first round talent,
Right.
mid to late first round.
Yeah.
Some off the court stuff, some drama that came up caused that force down. But quality.
So they end up with 3 first round graded players with high upside. Now,
and 2 were lottery player potential.
right.
So, yeah.
And ultimately, all 3 of them could be busts. I mean, it's possible, but you take
But not
3
likely.
shots
Yep.
to get a guy that could pan out to be a really good contributor to your team. That's
Definitely.
a home run in my book.
Oh, I agree. I thought Utah was a big winner too. I agree.
Now, mine is a little bit more, I guess, easy
Nuanced.
does it. No, it's easy does it. I mean, Oklahoma City continues to amaze. They continue to astound. Topic falls to 12.
That's
Get the heck out of here. Number 12. This was a guy that was somebody that the Spurs were big on, that a lot of people in mock drafts had the Spurs picking at 4 or 8.
Right.
And I know you're not sweet on him, but let me tell you, this guy, he's going to be out for a little while with that knee injury. But if any team can develop somebody like him, it's Oklahoma City.
If anyone can fix Topic's shot, it's Chip England. And he's unfortunately the shooting coach of the Thunder.
The shot doctor goes to OKC.
That's right.
My heart is broken.
That's right. So, Topic might not pan out, which, I mean, I hope all these kids pan out, but I don't think he's going to pan out. But, there's no risk there. There's
And
no
he's
risk.
6'6", and he's got the best handle in the draft. That's what everybody says. He's dishing it better than anybody. He's hurt, so he'll get a year off. He'll get a chance to develop, and we'll see what happens.
Even if he turns into a waste of a pick like Ousmane Dieng a couple years ago, it's still.
Do you guys know who the hell that is? Because I sure know.
From France. There's no risk
Jean
there.
Charles, another one.
There's no risk there. So I think the Thunder did really well too. I agree. Now, who's your biggest loser in this draft?
The biggest loser, I would have to say it's the Hornets.
I agree. Tijon Salon at 6 was a huge swing for the fences, and
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to pan out.
He should have been back into the first of the lottery, in my opinion.
I agree. 14 to Portland was where I thought he would go.
Yep.
But man,
And how about the Bucks? that was another team that kind of
They
really
crapped the bed a little bit because when you think about who they drafted in the first round, they probably could have gotten him in the second round. Was it A.J. Johnson?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, I mean, I know they got Tyler Smith in the second round, but he's a boomer bust. If they would have flip-flopped those picks, I wouldn't have had as much of a problem. I mean, they wound up with both of them anyway, but
Yep.
yeah, I think the Bucks and the Hornets probably did the worst in this draft.
I definitely agree. And I've got one more winner, and it makes me
Oh, yeah.
sick. I mean, they already win championships. They're already second all-time in championships. And to me, they're the Kramer of the NBA right now. The Los Angeles Lakers. They fell ass backwards into Dalton Connect. Can you believe he was available at 17?
I can't.
How many teams did not do their homework and let him fall all the way down to the Lakers? They got a guy in J.J. Redick who is a three-point assassin. He's going to teach this guy how to ball at the NBA level, and he's going to be scary good for the Lakers. You mark my words. He's 23.
That's why he fell, because of his age.
But see, that's why he's perfect for the Lakers, because they don't need a snot-nosed kid to try to bring up from the diapers. He's already ready. He's ready to go.
I wouldn't call any of these kids snot noses with diapers.
But he is.
But you're right.
I mean, truly, he's mature. These other
Very
guys
mature.
are babies, man. They're 18,
Right.
19, etc.
I mean, look at what we did when we brought Derek White in.
Yeah.
I mean, he was older, he was established. and
Baby
he's
head, yeah.
A huge contributor on Boston's championship team.
Yeah.
That wraps up winners and losers. On to our next segment, Q&A with Q&A.
So now we're going to talk about bold moves. So in this segment, I'm going to ask a question, he's going to ask me a question, and we're going to frame it around this idea of who made the boldest move in the NBA. So I'm asking you, who do you think made the boldest move in this year's draft?
I love what Detroit did at number 5. I told Quinn, because he was like, oh my God. I mean, we were both blown out of our socks. I thought going for Ron Holland II was a bold, brave move, because so many people, Jonathan Givony said, this guy is his number 1 player in the whole draft. The reason people waited on him, the reason why he slid some, he doesn't have a consistent shot. He can take it to the basket. He's great on defense. He's a great rebounder. He's a strong defender.
Very athletic.
Very athletic. Kind of a poor man's Kobe Bryant, if you will. And I know that's a reach. I know that before I say it. It's like a Mr. Fantastic Stretch Armstrong reach. But if this guy develops a decent shot, this dude's like, look out. He is going to be deadly good, and he is going to provide whoever picks him a lottery number one pick type of player. So
you could say the same thing about Stephon Castle, though.
Oh, I agree.
If Stephon
I thought it was
Castle
a
develops
beautiful
jump
pick.
shot, he could. I agree. I think both of them could wind up being the best 2 players in the draft if they both develop their jump shot, because they have everything else.
Yeah, because you could even argue that Atlanta reached taking Reese Hachey number 1 overall.
Yeah.
Because everybody put Sarr number 1, and then there was even talk that Klingon could go number 1. So you could even argue that Atlanta reached at number 1. And then Atlanta goes and trades DeJounte Murray. And wow, I mean, I didn't see that coming from the Pelicans, but that's going to weaken them. So if you're the Spurs, you better hang on to all those picks that they gave you,
Right.
because that's going to be some serious cash right there. You're going to make
sure.
you're going to make some splash in 2025, guaranteed. But just to put a bow on it, Ron Holland, second at Detroit at number 5. That was, to me, the boldest move. How about you, Quinn? Who was your bold?
I'm going to say Portland, staying at 7 and drafting Donovan Clingan. Now, this was bold because there was speculation, as you just mentioned, Clingan could have gone 1. Atlanta was very enamored with Donovan Clingan. And then you had rumors about Donovan Clingan going 4 to the Spurs, and then Memphis having to trade up to try and get him, Portland having to try to trade to get him. So he landed in their lap at 7. That's a strong test of faith, because honest to God, he could have gone anywhere from 1 to 6.
But Portland got lucky because they didn't have to give up any draft capital. They didn't want to. Now, we saw later they wound up trading out of the 14 pick. So
And they traded the pick 34 to Tyler Kolek.
Yeah,
to the Knicks.
so again,
They didn't have.
All they cared about was getting this
Klingon,
guy.
yeah.
Because they were seriously like, oh my God, the Spurs are going to take him and totally blow us out of the water.
Yeah, they didn't have the same kind of draft that the Jazz did, but I definitely think that Klingon is going to provide a big for the future for them, and he's a foundational player that I think you could build build with,
Yeah.
right? So you have Scoot Henderson, you have Shaden Sharp, and now you have Donovan Klingon.
Yes.
And I think that that's a good
It's
core.
a good nucleus.
I think so.
Absolutely.
And then that move might have also caused Zach Edey to move up. So
Oh, for sure. Because if Memphis had targeted Klingon since the lottery results,
But they got their big. They got a big man that they wanted, and
They did.
yes, it was about 6 picks earlier than most people had predicted. But wow, I mean, and he's a big body and
Talk about a bold
National
move, because
championship.
he was such a polarizing player. People thought Edey could wind up 29, 30.
Or second round.
Or second round,
Yeah.
right? Some
and
people
then
had
some
him
boards had him at the lottery at
Right.
the back end of it, and he goes that high.
to 9. That's bold too.
But it's
For me,
because
it's a
Memphis
toss-up
thought-
between Portland and Memphis.
Yep. I think he's going to work out for them, though. I think you've got Jaren Jackson Jr., you've got him. If a certain guard with the initials JM, if he can just behave himself this year, then maybe that team can get back on track because they have a lot of talent. And then you go and you add a big man like him, the sky's the limit for that team if they can play together.
I agree. I think for sure that Memphis is in a good direction. I think getting Zach Edey fills that role that works with them. When they had Jonas Valanciunas, I think that traditional big works for their scheme. And I think Zach Edey, I mean, who's better than that mountain of a man?
Absolutely.
You know?
So in this segment, we will be drinking Kings Creek Black Label Tennessee Whiskey.
Cheers.
Cheers. I'm going to ask him a question. If he gets it right, I have to take a sip. If he gets it wrong, he has to take a sip. We're going to ask each other 3 questions. 3 questions. I will ask the first question.
Shoot.
We traded the 8th pick to the Minnesota Timberwolves this season. Last year, we also made a draft day trade with the Timberwolves in the 2nd round. Who was the player we traded to Minnesota?
I don't recall.
Leonard Miller.
I
From
should
the
know.
G League.
From G League, yep. Down the hatch.
There we go. Ask away.
All right, Quentin, so now it's my turn.
Okay.
True or false? In 1977, the Spurs had their first round pick.
False. They
That's-
drafted Jeff Wilkins.
That's correct. I think you cheated and looked at my notes.
No, I can't see from there, but anyway, I just know my stuff because I was actually going to ask a similar question.
baloney, man.
I was going to ask who was the first pick the Spurs ever made, but I thought you might know that.
No, you're hateful.
Anyway, okay. Second question. Which player started their career in Minnesota, but then went on to win 2 championships with the Spurs?
Wow, that's a good one. Yeah, there's some crickets. Old Mad River. Gosh. It's not Will Purdue.
No. Rasho Nesterovic.
Oh my God, that makes me sick. Rasho. Blah.
I got him. I'm winning. I'm crushing right now. You're going to be hammered.
I got a little buzz. I ain't gonna lie. I'm kidding.
Lightweight.
Okay, guys, so here's my question. Quentin, this is number 2. In the 1985 draft, who was the Spurs' number 1 pick?
Oh. Oh. I think you might have got me. Was it Alvin Robertson?
No.
who
that was 1984, sir.
Ah.
The ever horrible Alfred Hughes.
Ah.
Take a sip, boy. Oh my God, Alfred Hughes. Yeah.
All right. Last question.
Okay.
Who was the last player from UConn to play for the Spurs?
Rudy Gay.
Say it again.
Rudy Gay.
That is correct. That is correct.
Don't try to stump the Schwab on 3, baby.
So what are we, 2 for 2?
You have missed 1, and I have missed 2.
Correct.
But I did pull it out of the fire on number 3, so we're okay there.
Okay. So your
Now-
last question.
My last question. Now, you brought up Alvin Robertson. Where did he go to college? I got him now, folks. I got it.
Alvin Robertson.
Yeah.
This is a complete guess. Alabama?
Wrong. I'm going to give you a clue. Sue.
Oh, he went to Arkansas? Hopefully this will make me forget that noise you just made. That was...
Oh, so folks,
disturbing.
we both sucked today. We both we both got one right.
Yeah.
So, guys, that's the end of our second episode. I am so excited.
Thank you guys so much.
And cheers to y'all.